Welcome to Homestead Reptile, and in this episode we have a special, the fear of spots for this spooky season coming up. So this girl is actually a very lovely extreme Harlequin. She has a good pattern, she has a nice dark base, the oranges could be oranger, but she's altogether a decent looking gecko. But she has something every crested gecko breeder dreads. She has some spots. Now she has a spot on her head, and she has some spots in that dark pattern. But when she's fully fired up, try to find them. They're very difficult to find. And she has a few sneaky spots at the edge of that pattern, right where the dark and that orange pattern meets. So they're also very difficult to spot. So that is also why spots are kind of disliked in pattern geckos. So everyone's cool with spots on plain-based pattern Dalmatians. Perfectly fine. But when you get into spots into patterns, people absolutely dislike them. So it can ruin projects. They are difficult to find because you can have spots in the nostrils, you can have spots in the ears, you can have spots between toe pads, you can have spots around the cloacal vent, you can have spots on the tail, and if the tail falls off, you will never know. And there's a theory going on. This is spooky right here, guys. There might be a recessive spot trait, and spots can just pop up into lines they've never had spots before. So that is why people hate spots on pattern geckos. They are difficult to get rid of. They're little pests. They will pop up into almost any collection for almost any bizarre reason, and they just happen. It can really ruin a really good gecko. Now, people will kind of overcorrect their spot hatred. They will set their projects back years and years to get rid of spots out of their projects. Are spots that bad? Are they the plague of the pattern gecko world? Well, in my opinion, I was all on the I hate spots on my pattern gecko project until I found Boba Tea, which I give him a exception because he has very minimal pattern. He's a very light tiger with a very nice tangerine base with some spots. He's a great looking guy, and I actually really like his spots and with his pattern. But with this girl, this extreme Harlequin, with that spotting, most people can't stand it. Most people will think it's a lovely pattern and that spot just ruins it. Think of a beautiful landscape painting. You can see all the details in the tree bark, the leaves, the flowers, the meadow, and then someone just throws black ink on it. It ruined it. Some people really hate that, and some people really love that. It really depends on how you see your spots. Do you see your spots as horrific, or do you see the spots as an interesting add-on to the pattern? It really depends, but most people see them as undesirable. Spots are difficult to get rid of. Spots are sneaky, and they can sneak into projects. But let me tell you something. It doesn't matter if your gecko has one spot, but it has all the other traits you want. And I have an example of this, and I'm still beating myself up for not getting this gecko. So I went to the Cleveland Reptile Expo. I really recommend it. So this was around the time when the crested gecko market was dropping, so those prices were going down, and I was looking for a breeding age male or near breeding age male charcoal black base phantom. Was looking for some more red phantoms, and this one table had this fantastic adult male breeder for $100. He was jet black, and phantoms normally, dark base phantoms normally will have a two-tone color where the head will be this lighter brown and the rest of the body will be really dark. So that's super common with phantoms. And he was fully fired up, and his head was a little lighter, so I could see he had one spot on his head. And I was thinking, you know what, I'm really trying to get away from spots in my phantom projects. Now, I honestly don't mind spots with my phantoms, and I don't mind spots in my dark phantoms just because when they fully fire up, you don't really see the spots anyways. And it doesn't bother me, but I know it bothers a lot of people. It's like, you know what, I'll try to find a male with no spots. So I left, and I kept thinking about that amazing male, and I didn't leave that table very long. I was like 5 minutes, I left to go look at a couple of other tables, and he's like, I gotta pick that guy up. He was $100. He was breeding ready. He was fantastic. And it's like, I'm going to go back over and I'm going to pick him up. So I went back over and I was going to pick him up. Some other lucky person grabbed him, paid for him, and was like, I should have gotten that gecko when I saw it. I shouldn't have let that spot throw me off. He was a all-around fantastic animal. And that's what I'm kind of coming to. If the animal has 1 spot or 3 spots or 5 spots, and it's a really good price, and it has fantastic lineage, and it has every other aspect you like about it, except for one aspect: it has a spot. Should you get it? It really depends on you. I'm still beating myself up for not getting that fantastic male. He would have met my breeding projects for years and years on, and I could have bred those spots out. Just because a gecko has a spot doesn't mean that it's not worth using in projects. Because I've seen some fantastic lily whites, some amazing, like, high color, high contrast lily whites, and they'll have a spot. They'll have a spot on the head, and a lot of people will pass it up because they don't want the spots, the infestation, to go into their collection. But if there is a recessive spot gene going on, does everyone just have random spotties floating around and you just don't know it? Who knows? And again, it's like you could pick up an animal that you think has no spots at all, and it has a spot somewhere on its body and you're just not finding it. It's really hard to find on dark-based animals when they're fired up, and if a spot's in a bad location, you can just sometimes get spots. So my advice is, if you want to keep away from spots, you're going to have to examine top to bottom with your gecko. You're going to have to get a little flashlight and look in their ear, look in their nostrils, look between their toes. But if you're just like, I'll try to keep spots out as much as I can, but this amazing animal has a few spots, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity to get a lot of my other projects done and just try to breed spots out, because you can breed spots out. Think about it. New Caledonia, I'm sure majority of those geckos in the wild have some spots, and they were bred out of a lot of different projects, and they can be bred in and they can be increased, but spots can be a serious pain in the butt if you don't want them. They can appear in random places. They can pop up into lines that have never had spots. And also the weird thing, so you can also have pairings that are heavy spot producers and produce a baby with no spots. I've seen it happen. It is bizarre. I've seen people show me geckos that come from 2 very spotty parents, and this baby is now 20 grams and it has no spots. It's not likely to get spots at this point. It happens. It's weird. We're still working out the genetics of it. I mean, it's a genetic anomaly.